The crimson sands of Zyphera Prime stretched endlessly under a sky that shimmered with violet clouds and streaks of orange lightning. The colony's survival training grounds looked nothing like Earth. Harsh cliffs of jagged rock, deep canyons carved by ancient storms, and sprawling wastelands where alien predators silently watched from the shadows. New cadets arrived here every cycle, eager to prove themselves, but the planet did not forgive weakness. Among the fresh recruits, one figure moved quietly, almost unnoticed, yet not entirely invisible. Lyra Sato stepped onto the landing platform, her worn backpack slung low across her shoulders. The leather was patched in places, scratched from years of use, and the seams had been reinforced with strips of old fabric. To her peers, it looked ordinary at best or laughable at worst. Whispers spread quickly through the group of cadets. "Look at her backpack. Who carries something that old?" One boy snickered, nudging his friend. "She probably sleeps in it too," another added with a snort. Lyra ignored them. She had learned long ago that people often judged before they saw, mocked before they understood. Her eyes scanned the training ground with quiet attention. The terrain was alive with danger, even in this initial, controlled simulation. Every ridge and dune could hide pitfalls or alien creatures. Every cloud of dust could carry storms that shredded skin and ruined equipment. She had spent years preparing for this, not just physically but mentally. The instructor, Kale, stepped forward from the observation tower, his dark uniform crisp despite the sand whipping around his boots. He was a man whose presence demanded attention, though his age and battle scars gave him an aura of weariness. His eyes swept over the cadets, assessing them as a predator evaluates prey. He paused briefly when he reached Lyra, leaning slightly closer to inspect her backpack. His hands trembled for an instant, subtle but unmistakable. He turned his gaze quickly to hide it, but the faint recognition had registered. A blood seal, hidden under worn leather, glimmered faintly in the dim sunlight. It was a mark of a forgotten human battalion, legendary for their skill in alien warfare, thought erased from history after a catastrophic mission on a distant star. Kale had trained countless recruits, but he had never seen this seal outside the old records, faded in memory and data banks. The other cadets had no idea what it meant. To them, Lyra's backpack was still just old and shabby. They laughed again, louder this time, and a few even nudged her, testing her response. Lyra remained calm. She said nothing. Her grip tightened slightly on the straps of her pack, but no one could tell. Inside, she knew the truth. The bag carried knowledge and tools that could change the fate of humanity on this world, if only the right people understood how to use it. The cadets were her first test, not of survival but of patience. She let their insults and jabs wash over her, studying each face, noting weaknesses, noting bravado. None of them suspected that she had already memorized the terrain, the potential dangers, and even the behavior patterns of their instructor. "Cadets!" Kale's voice cut across the wind, steady and commanding. "Today begins your initiation into Zyphera Prime's survival program. You will face the environment, and you will face each other. Only those who can adapt, think, and endure will complete this training." "Seriously, she's like a shadow," one boy muttered. "Bet she cries the first time we hit the red storm," another added, laughing. Lyra didn't flinch. She had been through worse storms in her life than Zyphera's dust winds. Every trial she had faced before coming here, losing friends, surviving accidents, navigating the ruins of old colonies, had taught her that appearances could deceive. Strength came in many forms, and patience was one of the most powerful. Kale raised a hand. The mockery died down, and even the whisperers fell silent, knowing that his eyes could pierce through pretense. "You will be dropped in sectors Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Each sector has unique challenges, from predator ambushes to unstable terrain. Your objective is simple: survive, gather intel, and return to base. Anyone who fails risks elimination from the program." The bag on her back was not just for carrying supplies. It held plans, relics, and tools from a time when humans fought for survival against impossible odds. The moment came to board the drop pods. They were sleek metal capsules that would launch into Zyphera's atmosphere, depositing the cadets hundreds of meters from base. Excitement and fear mingled in the air. Many cadets joked and jostled one another, eager to prove themselves. A few cast uneasy glances at Lyra's quiet confidence, though they didn't understand the source. As the pods activated, the instructor spoke again, his tone low but firm. "Remember, the planet will not wait for hesitation. Adapt or perish." The faint shimmer of the blood seal caught the last rays of sunlight before the pod doors closed. She took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the seal almost as if it were alive. It seemed to whisper reminders of her heritage and the responsibility she carried. The drop pods jettisoned into the crimson sky. The others screamed in thrill and fear, but Lyra's mind was calm. She analyzed the wind currents, calculated the pod's trajectory, and prepared for a precise landing. While the others flailed, she descended almost effortlessly, touching down lightly on the jagged sand, then rolling to absorb the impact. When the other cadets landed nearby, some stumbled, others fell, and a few cursed their own inexperience. They looked at her with a mix of confusion and awe. Before they could react, a howling storm of red dust swept across the terrain, its winds sharp enough to cut through cloth. "Move!" Lyra shouted, not to command, but to save. She pointed to a small ridge just ahead, a safe haven from the storm. Some cadets followed instinctively, others hesitated. Those who lingered risked injury as the sand whipped at their exposed skin, scratching and stinging. Kale, observing from above via surveillance drones, noticed her tactical instincts immediately. The trembling in his hands returned, stronger this time. He had seen battlefield leaders before, but this girl, barely old enough to be a cadet, was demonstrating knowledge and precision beyond training manuals. By the time the storm passed, Lyra had guided most of the cadets to safety. The others had been slowed by arrogance and clumsiness. For the first time, the whispers changed. They were no longer mocking her backpack. Instead, there was cautious respect. Yet Lyra said nothing. She only checked the contents of her bag briefly: maps, water rations, a small alien scanning device, and several metallic objects etched with the same blood seal. They were relics of a human battalion thought lost, and they would help her survive the coming trials. That night, as the cadets huddled in the temporary shelters, Lyra kept watch. While others slept or complained, she observed patterns in the alien wildlife, noting how they hunted and how storms formed. The backpack, scuffed and patched as it was, seemed almost to hum softly against her back, a reminder that she carried the knowledge of generations. Kale approached her silently, no one else aware. "Lyra," he said quietly, his voice betraying a mix of awe and caution. "The seal, where did you get this?" He said one day it would be needed to protect humanity. Kale's hands trembled again, and he realized that the girl before him was not just a cadet. She was a carrier of human legacy, a bridge between the past and the uncertain future. The other cadets did not yet know the truth. To them, she was still the girl with the shabby backpack. But Lyra understood something they did not. Survival was not about strength or speed or bravado. It was about patience, knowledge, and knowing when to act. She had all three, and the universe had yet to see the full measure of her skill. As she lay on her cot, listening to the storm outside, she allowed herself a small smile. The real test had only just begun, and soon everyone would see that her worn backpack carried more than just supplies. It carried humanity's hope. And with that thought, Lyra closed her eyes, ready for the trials that the crimson sands of Sci-fi Prime would bring. The next morning, Sci-fi Prime awoke with a violent storm lingering in the distance. Its violet clouds churned, and streaks of orange lightning cut the sky, casting strange shadows over the jagged rocks and deep red dunes. The cadets assembled at the edge of the training zone, their uniforms coated with sand and sweat from the previous day's landing. Some nursed bruises and scrapes, their pride slightly bruised as well. Lyra stood quietly among them, her worn backpack heavier now with the supplies she had carefully organized the night before. Her calm gaze swept across the group, noting who had slept poorly, who was restless, and who still underestimated her. The whispers started almost immediately. "Think she's going to get us killed?" one boy muttered under his breath. "Maybe," his friend replied, "but at least she doesn't scream every time the wind blows." She knew her focus, her patience, and her knowledge would speak far louder than words. Instructor Kale approached, his boots crunching against the red sand. He had spent the night reviewing data from the cadets' previous maneuvers. His eyes fell on Lyra, and though he tried to keep his expression neutral, the faint tremor in his hands betrayed the recognition he felt for the blood seal. "Today you will enter the central sectors of the wastelands," Kale announced. "Alpha, Beta, and Gamma sectors contain dangers beyond your imagination. The objective remains the same: survive, navigate, and gather intelligence. Any cadet who fails risks immediate removal from the program." Some cadets whispered about Lyra's backpack, but it had lost its allure as a joke. They watched her curiously, sensing that she was not as ordinary as she appeared. The first sector, Alpha, was known for its hidden fissures and rapid sand flows. Many cadets faltered as soon as they stepped onto the unstable ground. Lyra moved with careful precision, stepping lightly, using her hands to test the solidity of the sand before committing her weight. "Watch where you step," she called to a cadet who was about to plunge into a hidden fissure. Her voice was calm, yet urgent enough to make him pause. He hesitated, then stepped back, eyes wide. "Thanks," he muttered, a hint of respect entering his tone for the first time. Lyra offered no smile. Survival required focus, not praise. She pressed on, guiding herself using the faint landmarks she had memorized from maps in her bag. Every ridge, every rock formation, every wind-blown pattern was familiar to her now. The cadets who had mocked her struggled to keep pace. One of them, a boy named Jerk, tripped over a jagged rock, cutting his hand. His friends rushed to help, but Lyra quickly assessed the situation. "Keep pressure on the wound, and we need to find water," she said, pulling a small container from her bag. "Gamma sector has a shallow aquifer. Follow me and stay close." Small, insect-like creatures scuttled along the dunes, their bodies reflecting the storm's orange light. Lyra observed them closely, noting their movements, the way they reacted to shadows, and how they detected vibrations in the sand. "Quietly," she whispered. "They can sense fear and weakness. Move slowly and do not attract attention." Suddenly, one of the cadets, the boy who had mocked her most, panicked and shouted as a creature scuttled past him. The others jumped in surprise, and chaos threatened to erupt. Lyra acted instantly. "Everyone, stay down," she barked. She grabbed a piece of metal from her bag and clanged it against a rock, creating a controlled noise that distracted the creatures. The cadets froze, amazed as the swarm shifted toward the sound. "Move," she commanded. With practiced efficiency, she guided them out of the canyon, away from danger. By the time they reached a safer ridge, everyone was breathing heavily. Some looked at her with newfound respect, though they said nothing. Instructor Kale watched from the observation drones. His hands trembled again as he realized the depth of her skill. Not only was she surviving, she was leading, teaching, and protecting others, something no other cadet had done yet. The blood seal had prepared her for more than survival. It had marked her as someone capable of extraordinary leadership. The group continued into Beta Sector, where the challenges were different. The ground here was littered with sharp, crystalline formations that could pierce boots and gloves. Winds whipped violently, and visibility was poor. Cadets had to climb and descend ridges, jump over gaps, and navigate without falling into natural traps. Lyra paused at each obstacle, assessing risk before moving. When a cadet hesitated at the edge of a deep crevasse, she extended her hand. "You can do this," she said quietly. "Step carefully, place your weight on the edges, and trust your balance." By late afternoon, they reached a plateau that overlooked Gamma Sector. From here, Lyra pointed out the landmarks she had memorized, the aquifer, the alien foraging paths, and safe shelters. Her knowledge allowed the group to plan the next phase efficiently. "Rest here," she instructed. "Keep your eyes open and do not let the wind make you careless. We still have a long way to go." The bag on her back, scuffed and patched, seemed to hum faintly as if reminding her of her purpose. Night fell quickly on Sci-fi Prime, and the violet clouds thickened, obscuring the stars. The cadets huddled around small heat shields, whispering nervously about the dangers they had faced. Lyra remained alert, scanning for movement and listening for the faintest sounds of the alien wildlife. A sudden rustle in the dunes drew her attention. Small, predatory creatures emerged, moving quickly toward the group. Lyra acted instantly, using reflective panels from her backpack to create flashes of light that confused the creatures. She grabbed a few cadets and moved them behind a ridge, while the rest watched in astonishment. When the creatures finally retreated, the cadets realized that Lyra had saved them without hesitation. Their earlier teasing was gone, replaced by awe and gratitude. For the first time, they saw her not as the quiet girl with the shabby backpack, but as someone capable of leading and protecting them in life-or-death situations. Instructor Kale approached again, this time standing at a distance. He did not speak, but the tremor in his hands betrayed the weight of realization. Lyra was more than a cadet. She was a living embodiment of human resilience and strategy. The blood seal was no longer just a relic. It was a warning and a promise. As the night deepened, Lyra kept watch while the others rested. She thought of her grandfather's words, whispered to her years ago. "One day, this will be needed to protect humanity." She understood now that those words were not just about survival. They were about leadership, knowledge, and the ability to guide others through challenges that seemed impossible. By dawn, the storm had passed, and the cadets were ready to move into Gamma Sector. Their fear had been replaced by determination, but more importantly, by trust in Lyra. Even the most skeptical of her peers began to follow her example, learning to navigate the terrain, observe the wildlife, and respect the challenges Zyphera Prime presented. Lyra adjusted her backpack, the leather worn but steadfast. She felt the subtle energy of the blood seal beneath her fingertips, a reminder of the legacy she carried and the trials still ahead. The day's lessons were clear. Patience, knowledge, and careful planning were more powerful than raw strength or arrogance. As the group set out toward Gamma Sector, the wind carrying the faint scent of alien flora, Lyra led with quiet confidence. She knew the dangers ahead would be greater, the trials harder, but she was ready. Her backpack, once mocked, was now a symbol of human ingenuity and endurance, and she knew that by the time the others fully realized her capabilities, it might already be too late to match her skill. The cadets moved through the red dunes under violet skies, unaware that their survival now depended not just on their own strength, but on the quiet girl who had carried a worn backpack and a blood seal, from another time, another battle, and another hope for humanity. The early morning light on Zyphera Prime cast long shadows across the jagged dunes, painting the landscape in shades of deep red and bronze. Lyra led the cadets toward Gamma Sector, a region rumored to hold ancient ruins from the earliest human explorations. Most cadets were weary from the previous day's storms and encounters with alien predators, but she moved with a steady determination, her worn backpack carrying everything they might need, and more. The path ahead was difficult. Sharp, crystalline rocks jutted from the ground, their edges reflecting the rising sun in blinding flashes. The wind howled across the plateau, stirring the red dust into swirling clouds. Cadets stumbled, struggled, and occasionally shouted when loose stones gave way beneath their boots. Lyra's calm voice cut through the noise. "Step carefully. Test the rocks before putting your weight down. Don't rush, it will only make things worse." The further they moved, the more evident it became that Gamma Sector was different from Alpha and Beta. The ground itself seemed alive, as if the planet had planted obstacles to test those who dared traverse it. Small fissures opened suddenly underfoot, narrow and deep, disappearing into shadows. Strange crystalline growths pulsed faintly, as though sensing movement and reacting. Lyra noticed everything. She memorized patterns, sensed the subtle vibrations in the sand, and calculated safe routes faster than anyone else could. Her backpack, heavy but reliable, held a small scanner that she used to detect unstable ground and hidden tunnels. Occasionally, she would pause to mark safe paths for the group using reflective markers she had packed. A sudden rumble made the cadets freeze. A narrow fissure widened ahead, releasing a cloud of reddish dust that stung their eyes and made breathing difficult. Panic rose among the less experienced cadets. "Stay calm," Lyra shouted. "Move slowly and follow me, one step at a time." One by one, the cadets followed, some trembling, some in silent awe. Even the ones who had mocked her backpack now looked at her with growing respect. At the center of Gamma Sector, hidden between two massive cliffs, lay a formation that caught Lyra's attention immediately. An overgrown, partially buried alien structure. Its surface was metallic but worn, etched with symbols that no cadet recognized. The faint hum of energy seemed to vibrate through the rocks around it. Lyra approached cautiously, her hand brushing against the surface of her backpack. The blood seal reacted, glowing softly for the first time since the initial inspection. A faint warmth spread through her fingers as the ancient symbols on the structure flickered in response to the seal. The other cadets stopped, staring, but none understood the significance. Instructor Kale, observing via surveillance drones, noticed the reaction too. His hands trembled again, stronger this time. He had studied the legends of the Blood Battalion, the elite group whose knowledge had been lost after a catastrophic mission, but he never imagined the seal could still function, or that someone this young could wield it. Lyra examined the alien structure carefully. Its walls were smooth yet lined with intricate channels, almost like a puzzle. She realized that the relic was more than just a ruin. It was a repository of knowledge and technology. Some of the cadets murmured about the strange symbols, but Lyra focused on the pattern of light reflecting from the sun, the faint vibrations, and the resonance with the seal. She knelt and placed her hand on the structure, letting the seal guide her. Slowly, the surface shifted, sliding open to reveal a hidden chamber. Inside, faint blue light illuminated consoles, devices, and objects that appeared both alien and human-made. Lyra's eyes widened in excitement and recognition. This is incredible," she whispered. "These are records, tools, strategies. Everything my grandfather said would be here." I'm sorry for laughing at your backpack." The blood seal continued to glow faintly, interacting with the chamber's controls. Lyra manipulated them with precise movements, deciphering the symbols instinctively, unlocking holographic maps, and accessing stored data that revealed forgotten knowledge about human and alien alliances, survival techniques, and advanced technologies. The cadets watched as she moved with purpose. Her knowledge was not just theoretical, it was applied. She directed them to take note of specific tools, instructed them on safety protocols for the equipment, and even demonstrated methods for harnessing alien technology without risking harm. Suddenly, a soft alarm echoed through the chamber. The holographic displays flickered, showing external movements in the sector, small, rapid shadows moving toward the ruins. Lyra immediately recognized them as scavenger drones, alien machines designed to detect energy sources and attack anything that emits unusual signals. "Everyone back away from the light sources and stay low," she commanded. "Follow me and stay quiet. If they detect us, we could all be in danger." She also used small reflective panels to redirect the drone's sensors, buying them time to move deeper into the chamber. Instructor Kale watched, realizing that the cadets' survival in this moment depended entirely on her skill. He could not intervene. Any direct action would ruin the authenticity of the trial. His respect for Lyra deepened, and he understood that the seal she carried was not just a relic. It was a guide, a key to knowledge and strategy far beyond what most humans could comprehend. Inside the chamber, Lyra discovered a control console that allowed her to activate defensive measures in the surrounding ruins. With careful precision, she manipulated the devices to create temporary barriers, redirect energy pulses, and trigger non-lethal deterrents that would keep the scavenger drones at bay. The cadets moved in coordinated patterns, guided by her instructions, and successfully avoided detection. Hours passed, and the immediate threat subsided. The cadets finally allowed themselves to breathe, astonished at what they had witnessed. They gathered around Lyra as she explained the significance of what they had found: records of lost human colonies, strategies for alien encounters, and tools that could help humanity thrive on Sci-fi Prime and beyond. "This is why the backpack matters," she said quietly. "It carries more than supplies. It carries knowledge, history, and the responsibility to survive and to lead." They had expected survival trials, but what they saw exceeded every protocol, every expectation. The blood seal's activation, the cadets' successful navigation, and Lyra's command of the relic demonstrated skill, bravery, and leadership far beyond her years. As night fell over Gamma Sector, the cadets set up a temporary camp within the safe areas of the ruins. Lyra remained alert, scanning for external threats and analyzing the alien systems in the chamber. She knew this was only the beginning. The relic's knowledge was vast, and mastering it would require focus, patience, and careful application. The cadets, once mocking and uncertain, now clustered around her, asking questions and seeking guidance. Lyra answered patiently, demonstrating that leadership was not about authority, but about sharing knowledge and ensuring survival for all. Kale approached, finally speaking in a low voice that only Lyra could hear. "I underestimated you," he admitted. "I didn't realize the seal could still function or that a cadet could wield it with such skill. Humanity is lucky to have you." "It's not about luck, it's about preparation and about knowing when to act." She closed her eyes briefly, thinking of the trials ahead. This relic, this knowledge, and the challenges of Sci-fi Prime would test them all. But for the first time, the cadets understood that survival was not only about brute strength. It was about intelligence, patience, strategy, and trust. And Lyra, with her worn backpack and the glowing blood seal, was already showing them how humans could rise above any challenge, even the ones Sci-fi Prime had yet to present. The night on Sci-fi Prime was unnervingly quiet. Even the wind seemed to hesitate as it brushed against the jagged cliffs of Gamma Sector. Lyra stood at the entrance of the alien chamber, her worn backpack heavy against her shoulders, glowing faintly from the blood seal embedded in its leather. She could feel the subtle hum of the alien technology beneath her fingers, like it was aware of her presence. The cadets, exhausted from the day's trials, huddled near the center of the chamber. Some were whispering nervously, others staring at the walls as if expecting them to come alive. Lyra's eyes scanned the horizon beyond the ruins. Something was moving, Small shapes darted in the distance, shadows flickering unnaturally across the red dunes. Her instincts, honed by years of observation and survival, immediately recognized the pattern. Scavenger drones. They were alien machines designed to detect energy sources and attack anything that emitted power. "Stay quiet," Lyra instructed, her voice low but firm. "Don't make sudden movements. Follow my lead." Lyra moved forward, checking the chamber's walls for potential escape routes. Her backpack's blood seal glowed faintly in response to the approaching threat, as if warning her of the danger. Outside, the scavenger drones closed in, their sensors flicking like sharp, probing eyes. They moved with mechanical precision, scanning for energy signatures and heat. Lyra knew they were faster than any cadet could run, and far more dangerous than the alien creatures they had encountered before. Survival required more than courage, it required strategy. She turned to the cadets. "We're going to divide into groups. Follow the paths I've marked. Move silently and do not stray." The drones are attracted to sudden movement and noise. As they moved, Lyra whispered directions, her voice calm and steady, guiding each cadet past dangerous crystalline outcroppings and unstable ground. One of the cadets, the boy who had mocked her backpack at the beginning of the training, stumbled over a rock. The group froze. A faint red light flickered on the edge of the tunnel. The drone's sensors had picked up the movement. "Keep moving," Lyra commanded. She reached down, grabbed his arm, and pulled him behind a crystalline formation. "Move slowly, don't panic, focus." The group continued, moving through the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the ruins. Lyra used small devices from her backpack to create temporary light distortions, effectively masking their energy signatures. The drones searched the area outside, their mechanical appendages scanning and probing, but they failed to detect the hidden group. Lyra knew they could not stay hidden forever. The drones would eventually adapt. She needed a plan that could turn the tables. Using the holographic displays she had accessed earlier, she pinpointed an area in the ruins where the drones' movements could be funneled into a trap. "Listen carefully," she said. "We're going to lure them into the chamber's main hall. There's a control panel there I can activate. It will create barriers and disorient them. If we do this right, we can neutralize the threat without anyone getting hurt." The group emerged from the tunnel near the main hall, careful to remain in the shadows. The scavenger drones were moving closer, their sensors scanning every corner. Lyra signaled the cadets to halt and whispered instructions for positioning. 3 on the left flank, 2 on the right. Keep low. Do not make any sudden movements. I'll trigger the defenses when they're in range." A soft hum resonated through the chamber, and a section of the walls shifted, creating temporary barriers that confined the drones' movement. The cadets held their positions, their hearts pounding, as the drones became trapped in the narrow space. Lyra triggered another device, releasing a wave of harmless but blinding light. The drones froze, sensors overloaded. Sparks flew from their joints as they attempted to recalibrate. "Now!" Lyra shouted. The cadets sprang into action, moving the reflective panels and using the alien technology she had guided them to manipulate. The drones were forced further into the chamber, confined and unable to escape. Lyra activated the final set of barriers, trapping the drones completely. The group breathed collectively, relief washing over them. The immediate threat was neutralized. Cadets who had mocked her, doubted her, or feared her leadership now looked at Lyra with a mixture of respect and amazement. Instructor Kale watched from the observation drones, his hands trembling once more. He had seen many cadets survive, many fail, but he had never witnessed someone so young take control of such a dangerous situation with intelligence, strategy, and calm authority. The blood seal was no longer just a relic. It was a tool, a guide, and a symbol of human ingenuity. Lyra turned to the cadets. "We need to secure the chamber and assess the relics. This is only the beginning. What we found here can change everything for humanity on this planet and beyond, but we cannot be careless." Lyra explained the significance of each item, teaching the cadets how to use the technology without activating potential traps or alerting further threats. Hours passed as they worked, the cadets following her guidance and learning quickly. They marveled at her ability to read the alien technology instinctively, her decisions precise and methodical. Even the boy who had mocked her backpack now spoke up, asking questions and taking notes. You've done this before, haven't you?" he asked quietly. Lyra smiled faintly, a rare expression. "Not exactly, but I've studied, prepared, and observed. Knowledge is the key. Strength alone is not enough." The cadets set up a secure perimeter, guided by Lyra's instructions. The blood seal on her backpack continued to glow faintly, as if reacting to the presence of the alien energy in the ruins. Kale approached the entrance of the chamber, speaking only to Lyra. "You've surpassed every expectation," he said. "The cadets' survival, the drone's neutralization, it's more than I could have imagined." Lyra was a living link to the knowledge, strategy, and resilience of a human legacy long thought lost. As the night wore on, the cadets finally rested, but Lyra remained alert. Her eyes scanned the horizon, listening to the subtle vibrations in the sand, noting the faint hums of alien energy. She knew the relics contained more than just knowledge, they contained responsibility. And with Sci-fi Prime as unpredictable as it was, preparation and vigilance were the only guarantees of survival. Before sleep claimed her, Lyra checked her backpack once more. The blood seal pulsed faintly beneath her hand, almost as if acknowledging the success of the day. She allowed herself a small, quiet smile. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The alien scavengers would return, storms would grow stronger, and the secrets of the relic would demand more from her than she had yet given. But she was ready. Her cadets trusted her now, the blood seal guided her, and humanity's hope rested on their combined skill and intelligence. For the first time, the cadets understood what it meant to follow someone who truly carried the weight of survival, knowledge, and strategy. And as the alien ruins hummed softly around them, Lyra realized that the real test was just beginning. The sun rose over Sci-fi Prime, casting a harsh, orange-red light across the crystalline ruins of Gamma Sector. The storm that had raged the previous night had passed, leaving the air sharp and dry, carrying the faint scent of alien flora. Lyra adjusted the straps of her worn backpack, feeling the subtle pulse of the blood seal beneath her hand. It was as if the relic itself had acknowledged the trials she had faced. Today, she knew, would test the cadets and herself more than any storm, drone, or obstacle before. The group gathered quietly in the chamber. They had spent the night reviewing the relics, learning basic operations of the alien devices, and consolidating their supplies. The cadets, once fearful and mocking, now looked to Lyra with trust and respect. Their confidence in her had grown steadily, but she knew that leadership was proven not in comfort but in crisis. "Today, we secure the perimeter," she said, her voice calm but firm. "The scavenger drones are not gone, they are adapting. We need to ensure this sector remains under our control, and that no energy signals from the relic alert further threats." Even those who had doubted her earlier now worked with determination, their confidence fueled by her example. As they worked, Lyra noticed unusual readings on one of the scanners she had placed around the ruins. The drones were returning, faster, more numerous, and with upgraded sensors that could detect faint energy fluctuations. Their mechanical movements were precise, coordinated, almost intelligent. "They're back," she whispered, "and stronger than before. Stay calm, follow the plan." She set reflective panels and small devices to create false energy signatures, drawing the drones toward traps she had prepared in advance. "Remember," she said, "they rely on energy detection and pattern recognition. We use that against them." Lyra activated one of her devices, creating a mirrored light pattern that confused the drones, causing them to pause and recalculate. Then, with precise timing, she triggered a sequence of barriers that redirected the drones into narrow corridors, isolating them from the cadets. The cadets moved like a well-trained unit, guided by her instructions. Some pushed panels to redirect the drones further, while others prepared defensive measures using the alien devices. Sparks flew as drones attempted to recalibrate, their mechanical bodies becoming trapped in the barriers. Instructor Kale observed from the control drones, his hands trembling with awe. He had seen cadets perform under pressure before, but never had someone so young orchestrated such a complex and flawless defense. Every move Lyra made was deliberate, every instruction calculated. Her leadership was not based on authority alone, it was grounded in knowledge, foresight, and instinct. Despite the drones' numbers, the cadets remained calm under her guidance. The boy who had mocked her backpack stepped forward with confidence, manipulating one of the panels to trap a drone. Others followed his lead, coordinating movements as if rehearsed, though it was all Lyra's instruction in action. The drones struggled against the barriers, unable to escape. Lyra activated a final device from her backpack, a low-frequency pulse that temporarily disabled their sensors. Sparks erupted from the mechanical limbs of the drones, and their movements ceased. The cadets stared, amazed at the effectiveness of the plan. "It's over," Lyra said quietly, though she did not relax. "Not permanently. But for now, the sector is secure. The relic holds more than just defensive tools. It contains knowledge of human survival, alien systems, and strategies for living in environments far harsher than this planet." They observed star charts, human colony data, and tactical simulations designed for conflicts with alien civilizations. Lyra explained the significance of each piece, teaching them not only how to use the information, but also how to think critically and strategically. "This knowledge is powerful," she said, "but it is useless if we do not act wisely. Survival depends on thinking ahead, understanding your environment, and trusting those around you." By the time they had finished reviewing the relics, every cadet had gained insight not only into the alien technology, but into the value of human ingenuity and teamwork. Instructor Kale approached the chamber again, speaking quietly so only Lyra could hear. "You've done more than survive," he said. "You've taught them, guided them, and turned them into a team. The seal, it truly chooses its bearer wisely." She instructed the cadets to prepare for movement to a higher, more defensible location where they could continue their study of the relic. As they ascended, the cadets moved with surprising coordination, following her precise instructions. The once mocking peers now looked to her for cues, their trust unwavering. Lyra's leadership had transformed not only their confidence, but also their understanding of what it meant to survive and thrive on a harsh, alien world. At the summit, they found a natural plateau that offered both visibility and protection. Lyra set up sensors to monitor the surrounding terrain, while the cadets assisted in configuring defensive barriers using alien technology. The blood seal on her backpack glowed faintly, feeding her information, and she felt a sense of connection to the knowledge stored in the relics. Night fell again, and the sky shimmered with the violet storms Sci-fi Prime was known for. The cadets gathered around Lyra, exhausted but alert. She addressed them quietly but firmly. "You have done more than survive. You have learned, adapted, and trusted one another. That is what humans do best. We think, we plan, we act together. That is how we endure." Even those who had doubted her now recognized the truth. Survival was not about strength or skill alone. It was about intelligence, leadership, and cooperation. Kale observed from a safe distance. The tremor in his hands had vanished, replaced with steady awe. Humanity had produced many leaders, many survivors, but what he saw in Lyra was exceptional. She was the embodiment of human resilience, ingenuity, and foresight, the qualities that allowed humans to thrive against odds that seemed insurmountable. Lyra spent the rest of the night reviewing the relic's data with the cadets. Together, they documented what they had learned, created plans for exploration, and set protocols for future encounters with alien threats. Each cadet contributed, guided by her instruction and example, reinforcing the principles of teamwork, observation, and strategic thinking. By morning, the plateau was organized, secure, and ready for further study. The cadets were no longer novices. They were a team capable of facing Sci-fi Prime's dangers, guided by a leader who carried the legacy of humanity in a worn backpack. Lyra looked out across the dunes, the rising sun casting long shadows over the red landscape. She understood that the challenges of this planet and the galaxy beyond were only beginning, but she also knew that humans could rise to meet them. Intelligence, patience, and unity were weapons stronger than any alien technology. The cadets gathered, ready to descend from the plateau and continue their mission. Lyra led them with quiet confidence, each step purposeful. The blood seal on her backpack pulsed softly, a reminder of the legacy she bore and the responsibility she carried. As they moved forward, Instructor Kale followed from a distance, his mind at ease for the first time in years. Humanity had survived countless trials across the stars, and now, with leaders like Lyra, it was clear that it would continue to do so. The group descended into the vast red dunes of Sci-fi Prime, prepared for the unknown, ready for whatever challenges the planet would throw at them. They were no longer just cadets. They were the embodiment of human resilience, ingenuity, and hope. And at the center of it all, carrying a worn backpack that many had mocked, Lyra walked steadily, her blood seal glowing faintly against the dawn. She was proof that humans could rise above fear, doubt, and adversity. That humanity, when clever, patient, and united, could thrive anywhere, even on a planet as unforgiving as Sci-fi Prime. The horizon stretched endlessly before them, full of danger, mystery, and opportunity. Lyra's mind already mapped potential paths, strategies, and contingencies. The cadets trusted her completely, but more importantly, they had learned from her. They understood what it meant to survive, to adapt, and to lead. And so, with the rising sun casting light over the red dunes, humanity took its first confident steps toward mastery of Sci-fi Prime, guided by courage, intelligence, and the enduring legacy of a blood seal carried in a worn backpack.